Welcome back to Giving Light to Our World. We'll read about return to rest. It used to be that on television station would play a national anthem and sign off sometime after midnight. No more. These days, in the wee hours are filled with programming. Anyone up at those hours can pummel with unending news, weather, or informational pitches for gadgets you never knew you needed. Even in a small city, giant superstores are open around the clock. Increasingly, we live in a 24 by 7 world, and business hours are busier than ever. Multitasking is the name everyone gang. Even on the road, you can take or make phone calls, message your uncle in Bolton, check on stock prices, be updated on the news, learn the scores in yesterday's rugby match in New Zealand, and download music or videos on your iPhone, BlackBerry, or netbook. For many of us, 8-hour days at the office have become every walking hour day, where the office business and the world invade our home. But sooner or later, we come to the realization that we need rest. Not total inactivity, but a change of pace. A change from endless concern about this hour's stock prices and the next quarter's bottom line. To the thing both timeless and eternal. And a change, yes, to love and family in our place in the universe. Socrates said, the endowment of life is not worth living. And increasingly we know this to be true. We work and plan, strive and acquire, but to what end? So long as we allow ourselves to be memorized by the stream of data that fills the air all around us like an invisible smog, we will not pause and contemplate the truly important issue. It comes to the point where business publications like the Wall Street Journal are calling for, can you believe it? A return to the Sabbath. A June 15, 2007 article, The Decline of the Sabbath by Molly Ziegler Hamaway, put it this way. The flip side to the prosperity we enjoy is that we have lost our day of rest for remembrance for another day of consumption. The pace of commerce and technology provide unheard of options for ignoring family, religion, and rest, not just on the Sabbath, but every day of the week. The Sabbath provides exactly the antidote we need to counter today's information overload and anxiety disorder. The Sabbath provides a refuge, a rest, a respite from the constant activity and endless barrage of news. The Bible tells us that God built our need for rest and the remedy into the very fabric of creation. God, in Genesis chapter 2, verse 3, the first book of the Bible, blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy, because on it God rested from all his work that he had done in creation. By resting from all the work he has done, God provided us with a model and example. In the Ten Commandments, he made this example explicit and binding in Exodus 20, verse 9 and 10. He made this uh, he 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the 7th day, the Sabbath to the Lord your God. Note that neither shalt thou work 6 days out of 7 and rest on one. Rather, it is explicit that the 7th day is the Sabbath, and the 7th day, the 7th day, not a 7th day, and that is Saturday. If you look in the Bible, if you look in the dictionary for the word Sabbath, it does not say that it is on Sunday. It actually, the definition of it was Saturday, and it would say that it's for the Jewish holiday. It's true back in those biblical times, but it was actually for all mankind if you study about the Sabbath more deeply, not just by one verse, but by every verses in the Bible that talks about the Sabbath. It will show you that it is for everyone. Saturday, you may be right taught that Saturday Sabbath was given at Sinai just for the Jews. If it's true, then not killing and not stealing would also be just for the Jews. Or you may have heard that the cross ended the claims of the Sabbath. Once again, that would mean we are free to murder and steal, but no one believes that. You may have been taught that we worship on Sunday in honor of the Lord's resurrection. Truly, that's an important thing to remember, but the Bible never tells us to remember his resurrection. However, we are told to remember his death. 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 24 through 26. We are also told to remember his death as a striking parallel to the way that the Ten Commandments told us to remember the Sabbath day. We discover that the only full day Jesus rested in the tomb was the Sabbath. Rather than abolishing the Sabbath, Jesus' death reinforced it. As he had rested from work of the creation on the 7th day during the creation week in Genesis, Jesus rested from his work of redemption on the 7th day of the redemption week, commonly called Passion Week, which is also the 2nd day out of 3 that he died. The 2nd day. The 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Jesus died on Friday. He rested the entire day on Saturday, which is the Sabbath, and then he rose from the dead to make it to be the 3rd day that he has risen. But we are to remember the day that he rested, and that is Saturday, which is Sabbath, according to the 1 Corinthians. Of course, most of us don't like the idea of commandment or obedience, but in this case especially, it's foolish. Imagine if a doctor told you to take a vacation and then revealed that you had a vacation designed to meet your deepest need. That is what Sabbath is. Jesus himself said in Mark 2:27, the Sabbath was made for man, not man made for Sabbath. That means that Sabbath is not something arbitrary loop for us to jump through. We have enough of those on the other 6 days, but rather it is a day, rather it's a rest tailored to meet our needs. But why not Sunday or Tuesday? Why Saturday? In Genesis chapter 2, verse 3, remember that creation story in Genesis told us that God blessed the Sabbath, the 7th day, and made it holy. What does it mean to make something holy? When Moses stood before the burning bush, he stood on holy ground. He had to remove his sandals. He had to be on his knees and his feet, because he was very reverent to God before the burning bush, because it's the holy ground. what makes it holy is that the presence of God makes the Sabbath holy by being present on that day in a special way. Wait a minute. You may say that God is with us on every day. Of course He is. That's true. But it is also true that God's presence is everywhere. But Moses didn't have to remove his shoes everywhere, only at the burning bush, because just like the Sabbath, God was present at the burning bush in the same way that differ from the way He is present everywhere else. And those who set aside the Saturday, the seventh day, to rest from everyday pursuit and meet with their family and with God can attest that He truly can experience the way in a special way on that day. If you would like to explore the possibility of Sabbath, there are those who live nearby that would be glad to share it with you.